Greetings. My name is Christian Alexander Richmond, and today I'm going to give my first ever reaction to any kind of video, any kind of content. And that will be Assassin's Creed Shadow, formerly known as Codename Red. Some background really quick. Japanese history, culture, literature, etc. That was my main focus during university. I also went to two of the top universities in Japan, Osaka University and Tokyo International Christian University. I studied government, politics, among other things. Furthermore, my honors thesis was on Japan during the time period that the game is set in, although spanned much longer before and after, from the Heian period, which people think of the Minamoto versus the Taira, up until modern day Japan, and I focused on Geikokujo. However, the main focus really was on Oda Nobunaga and how did he shape the kind of meritocratic society that Japan became during the Sengoku period, during this Foreign States period. There usually is quite a bit of disinformation or just stereotypical, somewhat lazy information regarding who Oda Nobunaga is as a person. Now, I'm maybe making assumptions that Oda Nobunaga will play a major role as I'm about to watch this trailer. However, he is the first unifier of Japan. The second is Shiba Hideyoshi, who became Toyotomi Hideyoshi. And then the third is Tokugawa Ieyasu. Now, when we think about the Templars versus the Assassins, that dynamic has always had this kind of, how do I say, more so simple way of aligning who is a Templar versus who is an assassin. Now, I should give some information. I'm a bit ignorant of the Assassin's Creed series. I know what all the major titles are. However, I have played only up to the beginning of Assassin's Creed 4. All the previous titles, just about, I've played, and I know it intricately. But I know Japanese history much more than I know most other subjects. And additionally, I have connection to Japanese history since I am a quarter Japanese. I'm an Okinawan Japanese American. So there's that. My family history is connected to the Shizoku, which are considered the samurai class after samurais were no longer really in society, so the name changed to Shizoku. Furthermore, prior to that, I have family that actually were involved in that class. One of my great all the way to the 17th great grandfathers, his sword is in the Naha Okinawa Museum. And Naha is the capital city of Okinawa. And Okinawa is the island southwest of mainland Japan that became part of Japan, in the late 1800s. So, yeah, let's see what this brings. I'm very skeptical of how this will be. I am very nervous about whether or not they would bastardize the history, but hopefully everything is good. Okay.
Who are you? Who do you serve?
All I have ever known in my life. Our land. Our customs. My family. Burns in the name of unification.
I knew it. I'm pausing right now. I knew that the Oda were going to be portrayed as these kind of demonic or villainous types of characters. Who knows if this is really what's going to stay in the actual game. If they are portrayed as these villainous kind of people, and the troops as well, that is an incredibly disingenuous and completely fabricated depiction here. The Oda Samurai were essentially no different than all the other samurai in Japan at the time. Furthermore, maybe there was a little more, how do I say, if we're thinking societally, the samurai in the ranks of the Oda armies might have been more widespread. More people could become samurai under the Oda, and they're murdering innocent civilians and whatever. I'm very curious whether or not they treat the entirety of Japan and all the other samurai fairly in this game, because if the Oda are depicted in this way, then that should be depicted for the other samurai in this game, because that is not something unique to the Oda. The Oda were not sole in killing or murdering or pillaging, just like any kind of knights in Europe and whatnot. So let's see. I'm curious if this is Iga.
You are still a frog in a well who knows nothing of the sea.
Are you? Oh my lord. Is that Yosuke? Yeah. Okay. Creatively, that makes so much sense, and that would be intriguing to have Yosuke in there. I will say that there is this popular idea that Yosuke was a legitimate samurai. That's popular fiction. Yosuke was brought in by friars or padres, right? And given to Oda Nobunaga. Now, Yosuke was quite a unique person in Japan, although he was not the only person from Africa brought to Japan. There were a few others. However, Yosuke might be the most popular. He served Oda Nobunaga for a bit. His image as some samurai who might have led some other samurai, that's fallacious. That would be incorrect, unfortunately or fortunately. That doesn't mean that Yosuke in history is not someone who should be ignored or whatever. However, the significance that he played was negligible. The records regarding Yosuke are minimal at most. And also, I should mention that some years ago, there was this discussion on Yosuke when Netflix was announcing, the Netflix show about Yosuke. He wasn't a daimyo. He wasn't some warlord. So I hope they explain this correctly instead of promulgating ignorance and misunderstandings. Now, artistically, this is dope. However, for myself, I'm more of a historical stickler. I prefer everything to be as accurate as possible, or pushing the edge of what is accurate to the limit. That's totally great. So, yeah, let's see.
The ocean's filled with new ships, but they all come from the same river. Greed. Power. Vengeance.
His armor is dope, though.
And you? Will you continue down that river? Or choose another path beyond what we see?
Okay. By the way, Aya is an Okinawan kind of word or sound. Just means like, or oh my lord, that kind of thing. Okay, I see there's a female here, there's a male here. Just right now, are they going to have a story about these two people? How they're showing the Oda is keeping in line with my initial reservation and what I was fearing from the very beginning before Ubisoft ever made the Japanese Assassin's Creed, that they're going to depict Oda this very stereotypically and lazy way, greedy and just ruthless and whatever. Now, there are some records in history showing that Oda Nobunaga did in fact kill some monks, like on Mount Hiei, among other places, but there's some dispute about the extent to which he did this. And during my honors thesis research years ago, I read some of the documents, some of the primary sources from these padres, these friars, and these other people in Japan at the time, and the extent to which he committed all these ruthless acts might not be as much as he's stereotypically depicted as. Furthermore, are these really ruthless? Because if we look at the environment at the time, what is considered ruthless today and ruthless then, that's not the same. Furthermore, if we look at the other daimyo, the other warlords in that time period, they were essentially ruthless to a similar degree, some more, some a bit less, but the ruthlessness was still present.
And we must look for it together. We must learn to trust, rebuild.
And follow the blade.
I said, who do you serve? We are the shadows.
That serve the light.
Okay, so I see the names are Naoe, that's the female, and Yosuke. Right now, I see on YouTube after this video finished that there's this, oh, this is a joke. Woke Ubisoft gets destroyed after Black Samurai revealed, which, that's an asinine comment. Yosuke, he has some historical information regarding maybe being involved a bit in that respect, although he wasn't any samurai of note. The noteworthiness came from the fact that he's a foreigner and one of the first samurai ever to be a foreigner, maybe the first. Now, what I will say, looking at this trailer, the enemy, what is the Oda? If that is the case, then he has the Oda Kamon on his chest area, like near the stomach and chest area. He has the Oda insignia on there. So when people are asking, oh, who do you work for? Unless the person that he's killing is totally ignorant of who the daimyo are at the time, or if this is before Hazama, something like that. But even still, that wouldn't make sense because the Oda existed before Oda Nobunaga. And this seems to be after Oda Nobunaga secured his authority, after the little civil war between the Oda factions. In addition to that, in Japanese, we would say bareru, it would get out, like who he works for. So that seems a little silly, like he would have this, so that would insinuate that he's working in tandem with the Oda. But according to the trailer and the narrator, this seems to be against the Oda. So in that case, but he's going against the Oda while wearing the Oda colors and the Oda armor. That's definitely intriguing. In addition, I will say this. The armor that he wears, like I said, is dope. However, he would not be given that kind of armor in history. That might be reserved for more higher level warlords, samurai, etc. Maybe think of a Honda Tadakatsu or whoever. Yeah, they're making Oda Nobunaga evil again. That's not very original. There's quite a bit more nuance. And if anything, Oda Nobunaga, he expanded what was possible for the common person. Think about Hashiba Hideyoshi, who became the second unifier, who actually unified Japan after Oda Nobunaga was killed by Akechi Mitsuhide, one of his retainers. Hashiba Hideyoshi was a commoner. He was a simple person who even was Oda Nobunaga's sandal bearer. And the popular story with him is he kept that inside of his kimono or whatever, his clothing, to keep that warm. So then when Oda Nobunaga wanted to use them, oh, they're warm and they're more comfortable. There are quite a bit of people who Oda Nobunaga helped, not even only militarily, but economically. He was responsible for making the economy larger and more accessible to more people. So he is not a villain like that. Was Oda Nobunaga dishonorable in any way? If we look at the big three, Oda Nobunaga, Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu, no. Thinking about Tokugawa Ieyasu, who actually kept Japan unified for the longest time out of the three, from what, essentially 1600 until Commodore Matthew Perry came, he was dishonorable in the way that he actually won. He used deceptive methods. He cheated during the Battle of Sekigahara, among other things. So the narrative, I think, will paint a totally inaccurate picture of Japanese history. And I really was a fan of how much Assassin's Creed really paid respect to history, but I'm not familiar with the recent titles, unfortunately. So we'll see with whether or not they go a more true way, a more nuanced way, because what they can easily do is have Akechi Mitsuhide as the assassin and Oda Nobunaga as the Templar. That fits very easily with the story because Oda Nobunaga was considered as a king by the foreigners who came to Japan and met him. He adorned himself in Western garments and whatever. He famously wore Western armor. He really utilized Western equipment like the matchlocks, the guns of the time. But that's not to say that other clans did not do the same. Something that maybe most people don't know is even Takeda Shingen employed the use of these firearms. And this was before Oda Nobunaga did that, because Oda Nobunaga wasn't in power yet. So very curious to see how they're going to go treat all these different figures. That's not to say that the samurai were all peaceful and loving to commoners or whoever. Of course, there were those with hubris and those who are arrogant and those who are totally deplorable in the way that they treated people. But that might be seen more so, for example, we talked about Takeda on the Takeda side, because Yamamoto Kansuke, who is famous for his eye patch, but he worked for the Takeda clan in a highly respected role, he suffered some of the tragedies inflicted by the Takeda clan before he joined the Takeda clan. So everything is not black and white. There's quite a bit of gray, especially in Japanese history, especially in this time period, and it would be best if they approach this respectfully instead of sterilizing and simplifying way too much. Seems like maybe they will. We will see though.